Once again, I'm the Glam Guru, and this week we're doing something about the Biolite Headlamps. They decided to start making headlamps, and I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. They've got three models, the 200, the 330, and the 750. Yep, can you keep track of that? It's all about the lumens, people. That's what that is. From a design point, it's pretty cool how the fronts are all different. Usually with the headlamps, they have a brighter light, but the same front usually. I'm not sure that's true, but we're gonna go with that. One thing kind of interesting about the 750 light is that entire front part is actually part of the light. Now for the back of the headlamps, you'll notice they're all very different, especially the 750 and the 320 because they have the battery in the back, which in my opinion makes the headlamp feel a little more balanced. But remember, the 200 is super small and super light, so you don't really feel it anyway. Speaking of batteries, the 750 has a pretty big battery in the back. It reminds me of the old Petzl headlamps. You ever have one of those? It always made you feel like you're like a spelunker of sorts. I mean, doesn't this guy look like he's having a blast? We move on. I love how the wire is actually inside the headband of the headlamp. I think that's really cool design. I then forced my friend Ben to try on one of the headlamps so we could just check out the actual fit. On the back you have two adjustable clips, which is really nice. It looks like it sits pretty flush to your head, and I think that snugness would probably make it less bouncy and wouldn't slip as much. I probably should have made Ben jump around to justify that opinion of mine. And now into charging. You have the micro USB, which plugs into the front of the 200. But for the 330 and the 750, it plugs into the battery pack in the back. And there's also a battery status indicator light on the back, which is nice. Just so you know, the 200 does not come with that feature. And another thing, the 750 also has probably the best named cord I've ever heard of. The Run Forever cable. I mean, I know some of you have been waiting for this moment where you could just have a headlamp on your head for the rest of your life. Biolite has answered your prayers. Even the manual says you can do it. You're so welcome. Speaking of manuals, check out that segue, right? I think it's about time we actually talk about the lamp and headlamp. All three headlamps have a multitude of lighting features. I didn't want to go through all three headlamps because it would make this video epically long, so I just focused on the 750. Just a heads up, they all have pretty much the same settings, but the 750 has a couple extra things. I do think it takes a little time to get used to how to get to each setting, and sometimes I get confused on where I am in the cycle of settings. I have a feeling this is probably more like a me problem and is not your problem. Just remember that anything that's dimmable, you gotta hold down the button to dim it, or bring it back up. The 750 actually has 3 buttons, as the other 2 headlamps only have 1 button. One button in the back actually controls taking it from 500 lumens to 750 lumens, so it's super bright. Now, when it's at 750 lumens, it'll only stay on for 30 seconds unless you put it to constant. To do that, just hold down that big button for 5 seconds and you're all good. And the other button on the back of the headlamp actually controls the light on the back of the headlamp. That makes sense, right? Having that back red light can give you more options like riding your bike with it on, preventing you from getting hit from behind, you know, only good things. Now, we wanted to show how bright this light can get, but just filming it didn't do it justice. So we set up a super scientific test, as you can see, by pointing it at a tree about, 15 yards out, and using the waveform on my camera to kind of judge how bright this thing can get. Now, I know all of you are not going to agree with this official test of mine, but using the waveform on my camera actually did show you the differences between the headlamps when they're reflecting off an object of how bright they really are. I wanted to show you on the 750 headlamp that it usually casts at 500 lumens, but then you can bump it up to 750 lumens, which is insanely bright. You'll probably honestly blind somebody and they'll die. Yep, they'll die. And lastly, we did a battery test to see how long these headlamps could actually last. I couldn't at first arrange the headlamps in the way that I thought it could show you the battery life. So I just settled on mounting them to a coffee pot because that seemed perfect, right? And then I just blasted them right into the camera because that's the only way you could really tell how bright they really were. They were pretty consistent all the way through to about 3.5 hours, and then the 2 smallest ones knocked out. The 750 stayed on fully for about 6.5 hours. Then short of 7 hours, it went down to its reserve power. 7+ hours for a rechargeable headlamp, I mean, that's awesome. But remember, it is a $100 headlamp, and in my opinion, that's still a pretty expensive headlamp, no matter what it does. I do really love Biolite's company ethics, but at these price tags, you need to figure out how much time do you really spend outside and choose accordingly. I also wouldn't mind seeing a power block come with this, so you're not just relying on a USB port all the time. I feel like this is something that only bothers me. The way that you direct the headlamp, I wish it was a little more sturdy. In the end, Biolite's rechargeable headlamps are awesome. I do think these headlamps would last a very long time, and Biolite honestly stands behind their products, so any problems, they'd probably deal with it. Well, I hope this gave you some more insight into these headlamps. I'm pretty sure I probably missed something, so I feel like one of you will let me know. And if you like what I do, please subscribe. Take care.